People often say betrayal comes from your enemies. They're wrong. The deepest wounds are always inflicted by the people you trust the most. 5 years ago, I believed I had everything a man could ask for. A thriving software company, a beautiful home, a loving wife, and a business partner I considered my brother. I was wrong about 2 of them. My name is Ethan Carter. At 38, I had built Carter Dynamics from a tiny 2-person startup into one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity companies in the state. My partner, Ryan Brooks, had joined me during our 2nd year. He wasn't the smartest programmer. He wasn't the best salesman. But he understood people. While I handled technology, Ryan built relationships with investors. Together, we became an unstoppable team. Or so I believed. My wife, Claire, always admired Ryan. He's so confident, she would say. He knows how to walk into a room and own it. I laughed whenever she said things like that. I trusted both of them completely. Trust makes people blind. One Friday afternoon, Ryan walked into my office wearing the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Ethan, we landed the Mason Industries contract. I jumped from my chair. Seriously, he tossed the paperwork onto my desk. $20 million over 3 years. I hugged him. We did it. No, Ryan replied. You built this company. Back then, I thought he meant every word. Now I know he was simply waiting for the right moment. That evening we celebrated at one of the city's most expensive restaurants. Claire joined us. She looked stunning in a black evening dress. Ryan couldn't stop complimenting her. You always know how to steal the spotlight. Claire laughed. Oh stop. I noticed Ryan staring at her a little longer than necessary. I ignored it. Friends compliment each other's spouses all the time. Right. Weeks passed. Business exploded. We hired dozens of employees. Investors called every day. Money poured in faster than we could spend it. Success changed everyone, including Ryan. He bought a luxury sports car, designer suits, expensive watches. He started talking about private clubs and exclusive neighborhoods. You should move too, he told me. People judge CEOs by where they live. I smiled. I'm happy where I am. He shrugged. Suit yourself. Claire began spending more time away from home. Yoga classes, charity events, lunches with friends. None of it seemed unusual. Until I realized she was never available whenever Ryan happened to be unavailable too. Coincidence. That's what I kept telling myself. One Monday morning my assistant, Lisa, knocked on my office door. Ethan, you have a minute? She looked uncomfortable. Of course. She closed the door behind her. I don't want to interfere in your personal life. My stomach tightened. But, I've seen Ryan and Claire together several times. I laughed. They're friends. Lisa hesitated. They didn't look like friends. I frowned. What exactly are you saying? She shook her head. Forget I said anything. No, tell me. She sighed. I saw them leaving the Grand Regent Hotel together last Thursday. Silence filled the room. They were laughing, holding hands. They didn't notice me. I stared at her. There has to be an explanation. I hope there is. She quietly left. For the next hour, I couldn't focus on anything. Then I convinced myself Lisa must have misunderstood. Trust. It really is dangerous. That night I casually asked Claire where she'd been Thursday afternoon. She answered immediately. Shopping. With who? My friend Olivia. What did you buy? She smiled. A dress. Want to see it? No. Something felt wrong. Not because of her answer. Because it came too quickly. As if she'd rehearsed it. The following week Ryan asked to handle negotiations with a new investor alone. You're exhausted, he said. I've got this. Normally I would have insisted on joining. Instead, I stayed behind. An hour later, I realized he'd forgotten his tablet in the conference room. I picked it up. The screen lit up. A message appeared before it locked. Claire. Hart can't wait to see the house tomorrow. He still suspects nothing. I froze. The words burned into my mind. Ryan rushed back inside moments later. You found it. He grabbed the tablet so quickly it almost fell. You okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, I just picked it up. His eyes searched mine. For the first time, I saw fear. That evening I didn't confront Claire. I didn't confront Ryan. Instead, I hired a private investigator. If my life was falling apart, I wanted facts, not guesses. 3 days later the investigator called. Mr. Carter, I think you should come to my office. His voice told me everything. When I arrived, He handed me a thick envelope. Inside were photographs. Ryan, holding Claire's hand, kissing her, walking through an empty construction site, looking at blueprints, laughing together. Then came the document that made my blood run cold. A contract. The land where a luxury home was being built. The buyers, names, Ryan Brooks, and Claire Carter. They weren't just having an affair. They were building a future together. Using money that should have belonged to my company. I slowly closed the file. The investigator looked at me with sympathy. "I'm sorry." I nodded. "So am I, but not for the reason he thought." Because in that exact moment, Ethan Carter disappeared, and someone much colder took his place. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything across the room. Those reactions would have given them exactly what they wanted. Instead, I smiled. The private investigator looked confused. "Mr. Carter, are you all right?" "No, but I will be." I slid the photographs back into the envelope. "Keep watching them. I want to know everything. Every meeting, every phone call, every payment." He nodded. "You'll have it. For the next 3 weeks, I acted exactly the same. I laughed with Ryan in meetings. I kissed Claire goodbye every morning. I even thanked Ryan for working so hard. Every smile I gave them became another layer of camouflage. Meanwhile, my investigation continued. The results were devastating. Ryan had secretly been moving company money through fake consulting invoices. Nothing large enough to trigger alarms. 10,000 here, 20,000 there. Over 2 years, he had stolen nearly $1.8 million. Most of it had gone into building the luxury house. The house he planned to share with my wife. One evening the investigator called. "They're meeting tonight." "Where?" "At the construction site." I drove there before sunset. I stayed far enough away that neither of them noticed me. From inside my car I watched them standing in front of the unfinished mansion. Ryan wrapped his arm around Claire. She rested her head on his shoulder. Then he pointed toward the balcony. I couldn't hear every word, but one sentence drifted through the evening air. "Soon, it'll all be ours." Claire laughed. "I can't wait." My hands tightened around the steering wheel. That house would never belong to them. The next morning I visited my attorney. Her name was Victoria Hayes, one of the sharpest corporate lawyers in the city. After studying the evidence, she looked up. "This is serious." "No, you could have Ryan arrested today." "I don't want him arrested." She frowned. "What do you want?" I smiled. "I want him to lose everything." Victoria leaned back. "I've never seen you like this." "Neither have I." She organized the documents into separate folders. "Then we need patience. We build an airtight case. We recover every dollar. And we make sure he can't escape." I nodded. "Exactly." Over the following month we quietly audited every company account. Ryan never suspected anything. Whenever accounting requested another document, he happily provided it. He thought they were preparing for investors. In reality, they were building the case that would destroy him. Then came the biggest surprise. The land where the house stood wasn't fully paid for. The developer still owned the property until the final payment. Ryan had already invested nearly everything. But he was short by almost $600,000. Without that payment, the developer could legally cancel the contract. An idea formed in my mind. A dangerous, beautiful idea. I arranged a private meeting with the developer. He greeted me warmly. "Mr. Carter, I've heard wonderful things about your company. I need to ask you something confidential." He nodded. We sat in his office overlooking the construction site. "I understand one of your luxury properties still has an unpaid balance." His expression changed. "I'm not supposed to discuss clients. I already know the clients." Silence. Then I placed a certified bank statement on his desk. "If they fail to complete payment, I'd like to purchase the property immediately." His eyebrows rose. "You're serious?" "Completely. I'll pay in cash." He stared at the numbers. "No financing, no delays, no conditions, none." He slowly smiled. "I think we can work something out." 3 weeks later, Ryan missed the payment deadline. Exactly as my investigator predicted. The developer canceled the purchase agreement. Legally, quietly. Ryan didn't know, neither did Claire, because before either of them could react, I signed the paperwork. The house became mine. The keys felt surprisingly light. After everything they had cost, I walked through every room. The marble floors, the glass staircase, the enormous kitchen, the master bedroom overlooking the lake. This wasn't just a house. It was every dream they had secretly built together. And now, it belonged to me. I made only one change. In the entrance hall, I hung a framed photograph. It showed the day Ryan and I founded our company. Below it was a small brass plaque. Built on trust. Only I understood the joke. A week later Ryan burst into my office. He looked pale. Ethan, I've got a problem. I pretended to be concerned. What happened? The developer. He cancelled the house. I raised an eyebrow. Really? There must have been some misunderstanding. They sold it. I nodded slowly. That's unfortunate. Ryan slammed his fist on my desk. I invested everything. I almost smiled. I'm sure whoever bought it is very lucky. He had no idea. Not yet. That evening Claire barely touched her dinner. Something wrong? She forced a smile. No, you seem distracted. I'm just tired. She wasn't tired. She was wondering how her secret future had disappeared overnight. I watched her struggle to hide her panic. For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully, because revenge had finally begun. And they still had no idea that the owner of their dream house was sitting across the dinner table, the day everything fell apart. The following Monday, I invited Ryan to lunch. He looked exhausted. Dark circles hung beneath his eyes. His expensive suit was wrinkled. For the first time since we started the company, Ryan looked defeated. You wanted to see me? He asked. I smiled. Relax. We've both been working too hard. He nodded. I could use a break. Neither of us touched the food. His mind wasn't on lunch. It was on the house. Halfway through the meal, Ryan sighed. I don't understand how I lost it. I pretended to be curious. Lost what? The house. He immediately realized what he'd admitted. Oh, I mean, I was thinking about buying one. I laughed softly. You almost sounded emotionally attached. He forced a smile. Just bad timing. I looked him directly in the eyes. Sometimes people lose things they think already belong to them. For one brief second, his smile disappeared. That afternoon, Victoria called. We're ready. The financial evidence is complete. You can remove Ryan today. I looked through the office window. Ryan was laughing with employees. They still trusted him, just as I once had. No, not today. I want him comfortable. I want him confident. Then we'll end it. A week later, the board of directors gathered for our quarterly meeting. Ryan walked in smiling. He believed we were announcing another expansion. Instead, Victoria entered carrying 3 thick binders. Ryan frowned. What's all this? I stood. Before we discuss company business, I have something important to share. The room became silent. Victoria handed every board member a file. Ryan reached for one. His face slowly turned white. Bank records, wire transfers, fake invoices, hidden accounts, every theft, every lie, every dollar. He looked at me. Ethan, I can explain. I shook my head. No, you've had 2 years to explain. You chose to steal instead. The chairman looked furious. Ryan, is this true? Ryan couldn't answer, because every document carried his signature. Then Victoria placed one final photograph onto the conference table. Ryan froze. It showed him kissing Claire. The room fell completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. One board member whispered, "Oh my God." I looked at Ryan. You didn't just steal from the company. You stole from me. Ryan stood so quickly his chair crashed onto the floor. This is personal. I calmly replied. It became personal when you made it personal. The chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Brooks, your employment is terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Ryan stared around the room. Nobody defended him. Not one person. As security approached, Ryan looked directly at me. You think you've won? I smiled. No, I know I have. He was escorted out without another word. The man I once called my brother left carrying nothing but a cardboard box. That evening, Claire was waiting when I got home. She looked nervous. Ethan, can we talk? Of course. She sat across from me. I heard Ryan was fired. Yes. Why? I studied her face. She genuinely didn't know. Ryan hadn't told her. Interesting. Financial fraud. Her eyes widened. No, he wouldn't. I interrupted. He did. Silence. Then she whispered, "What happens now?" I answered quietly. That depends. On what? On whether there are any more secrets. For the first time in our marriage, Claire couldn't look me in the eyes. I don't know what you mean. I nodded slowly. Neither did I, until now. I walked upstairs, leaving her alone, wondering exactly how much I knew. The next morning, my investigator called again. I've been following Ryan, and he's headed to the house. I smiled. Perfect. I drove there immediately. Ryan arrived first. He climbed out of his car and walked toward the front gate. Then he stopped. A large metal sign had been installed overnight. Private property. Owner. Ethan Carter. Ryan stared at it in disbelief. His mouth literally fell open. He walked backward. Read it again. Then again. He couldn't believe it. A few minutes later, Claire arrived. She saw Ryan standing motionless. Then she saw the sign. Her face lost all color. What is this? Ryan whispered. I don't know. At that exact moment, I stepped out of the front door, holding a cup of coffee. Their eyes locked onto mine. Neither of them spoke. I slowly raised my coffee cup. Good morning. Claire looked like she might faint. Ryan's fists clenched. You bought it. I smiled. Beautiful house. Thank you for building it. Their world collapsed in complete silence. The last move. Ryan couldn't believe what he was seeing. He looked from the sign to me, then back to the house. You planned this, he whispered. I smiled. No, you planned it. I simply finished the story. Claire stood frozen beside him. Her lips trembled. Ethan, please, let me explain. I took another sip of coffee. You've had almost 2 years to explain. I'm listening. Neither of them spoke, because there was nothing left to say. Ryan finally exploded. You stole my house. I laughed. No, you lost it. You failed to make the payments. The developer legally canceled your contract. I simply bought a house that was for sale. His face turned bright red. You knew. Of course I knew. I've known everything for months. Claire gasped. You knew about us. I looked directly into her eyes. Every meeting, every lie, every hotel, every message. Her knees nearly gave out. Ryan stepped toward me. You ruined my life. I calmly replied. No, you ruined your own life. You stole from the company. You betrayed your best friend. And you expected a reward. Just then, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Then another. My attorney, Victoria, stepped out. Behind her came 2 police detectives. Ryan's confidence vanished instantly. What is this? Victoria opened a folder. Ryan Brooks, you are under investigation for corporate fraud, embezzlement, and financial theft. One detective stepped forward. We have a warrant. Ryan looked at me with panic. You called the police. I nodded. No, you called them, the moment you started stealing. The detectives handcuffed Ryan. He didn't fight. He simply stared at me. I trusted you. I answered quietly. So did I. They placed him in the police vehicle. As it drove away, the man who had dreamed of owning everything, owned nothing. Claire burst into tears. I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I never stopped loving you. I looked at her for a long moment. I believed those words once. But love isn't measured by promises. It's measured by choices. You made yours. She fell to her knees. Please don't leave me. I'll do anything. I shook my head. It's too late. I already filed for divorce. She looked up in shock. When, 3 weeks ago, she realized every document, every signature, every legal step, had already been completed. There was nothing left to save. A month later, the divorce was finalized. Claire received exactly what the prenuptial agreement allowed. Very little. She had expected half of everything. Instead, she walked away with almost nothing. Ryan accepted a plea deal. He was sentenced to prison for financial crimes. The stolen money that could be recovered returned to the company. Our employees kept their jobs. Our investors stayed. For the first time in months, the company felt peaceful. As for the house, I didn't move into it. Every room reminded me of betrayal. Instead, I donated it to a children's charity. They transformed it into a home for children who had nowhere else to go. The place built on lies became a place filled with hope. That felt like the best ending possible. 6 months later, Lisa, my assistant, stopped by my office. You seem different. I am happier. I smiled. Wiser. She laughed. I'll take that. One evening, I stood outside the former mansion. Children were running through the garden. Their laughter echoed across the property. For the first time, that house truly felt alive. I realized something important. Revenge isn't about making someone suffer. It's about refusing to let their betrayal define your future. Ryan lost his freedom, Claire lost her marriage, but I gained something far more valuable. Peace. People still ask how I stayed calm after discovering the affair. The answer is simple. Anger makes you reckless. Patience makes you unstoppable. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't destroying the people who betrayed you. It's building a better life while they watch everything they wanted slip through their fingers. And every time I drive past that house, I don't remember the lies. I remember the lesson. Never underestimate a quiet man who has already learned the truth. There are two kinds of betrayal. The first comes from strangers. It hurts, but you expect it. The second comes from the people who smile at you every morning. That kind changes who you are forever. My name is Ethan Carter, and for most of my life, I believed success was simple. Work harder than everyone else, treat people fairly, and loyalty would naturally follow. I learned that loyalty isn't bought with kindness. It's tested by opportunity. 10 years earlier, Carter Dynamics existed only inside a tiny rented office above an old auto repair shop. There were only 2 desks, one outdated coffee machine, and a dream that seemed far too big for the room we worked in. I spent 16 hours a day writing code. Sleeping on the office couch became normal. Most investors laughed when I explained my cybersecurity platform. It's too ambitious. The market isn't ready. You should sell the technology instead. I refused every offer. Then Ryan Brooks walked into my office. He wasn't a programmer. He wasn't an engineer. He was a salesman with endless confidence. He listened to my presentation without interrupting. Finally he smiled. "You've built something incredible, but you're terrible at convincing people." I laughed. "I know. Then let me handle people. I'll bring investors. You build the future." That conversation changed my life. Or so I thought. Within 3 years, Carter Dynamics had become one of the fastest growing cybersecurity firms in the region. Government agencies signed contracts. Banks trusted our software. Private corporations lined up to become clients. Money was finally flowing. Employees called me an inspiring leader. They called Ryan a business genius. Together, we seemed unstoppable. Around the same time, I met Claire. She worked as an interior designer. We met completely by accident. A coffee shop had mixed up our orders. She laughed. "I guess we're sharing breakfast." We talked for almost 3 hours. She was funny, confident, kind, or at least, she seemed that way. 1 year later we were married. Ryan stood beside me as my best man. During his speech he raised a glass. "To Ethan, the most loyal friend I've ever had." Everyone applauded. Looking back, that sentence almost feels like a joke. Success changes people slowly. You don't notice it day by day. Only when you stop and compare who they were with who they've become. Ryan started buying expensive watches. Then luxury cars. Then designer suits. Every month his lifestyle became more extravagant. Whenever I questioned the spending, he laughed. Image matters. Clients expect successful people to look successful. Maybe he was right. I didn't care much about appearances. I still drove the same pickup truck I'd owned for years. Ryan often teased me. "One day I'm buying you a Ferrari. I'd rather invest in another engineer." He laughed every time. Claire also began changing. She became fascinated with luxury homes. Every weekend she visited open houses. She collected architecture magazines. Sometimes she'd spend hours scrolling through mansion designs online. "I want us to build something extraordinary one day." I smiled. "When the time is right." She nodded. But over time, her excitement became impatience. One Friday evening we hosted a celebration after signing our biggest contract ever. Nearly 200 employees attended. Music filled the ballroom. Champagne flowed endlessly. Everyone was celebrating. I stepped onto the balcony for fresh air. A few minutes later Ryan joined me. "We did it. We actually did it." He handed me a glass. I smiled. "We've come a long way." He looked toward the city skyline. "You know, I've been thinking. We're worth far more than people realize." "What do you mean?" "We should expand. Acquire smaller companies. Take bigger risks." I shook my head. Growth is important, but stability matters more. Ryan didn't answer. Instead, he simply stared across the city. Almost like he was imagining a future without me. At the time, I ignored the feeling. Inside the ballroom, Claire was laughing. Ryan walked back inside before me. From the doorway, I noticed something strange. He whispered something into Claire's ear. She laughed harder than I'd seen in weeks. When she noticed me watching, she immediately stepped away. A tiny moment, barely noticeable, yet somehow impossible to forget. Months passed. Business continued growing. Ryan traveled constantly. Claire also seemed unusually busy. She started attending charity galas, networking events, design exhibitions. She often returned home late. Whenever I asked how her evening went, her answers became shorter. Fine. Busy. Nothing interesting. That wasn't the woman I'd married. Claire used to tell me every detail of her day. Now, conversations ended almost before they began. One afternoon my executive assistant Lisa knocked softly. Ethan, you have a minute. She rarely looked nervous. Today, she looked terrified. Come in. She closed the office door. I almost didn't say anything. What is it? She hesitated. I've seen Ryan and Claire together. I smiled. They're friends. She didn't smile back. They didn't look like friends. The room suddenly felt colder. What exactly did you see? Lisa lowered her voice. They had lunch together. Several times. So, they were holding hands. Silence. I probably misunderstood. I hope I misunderstood. I leaned back. No, you wouldn't come in here over nothing. She nodded slowly. I thought you deserved to know. After she left, I stared at my computer screen for nearly an hour. Without reading a single word. That night I asked Claire if she'd had lunch with Ryan. She answered immediately. Yes. My heart relaxed. At least she wasn't hiding it. He wanted advice about decorating a property. What property? I'm not sure. He said it's an investment. The answer sounded believable. Maybe too believable. Still, I wanted to trust her. Trust is a powerful drug. It convinces you that obvious warning signs are merely coincidences. Unfortunately, coincidences eventually run out. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. For years, that had been my routine. I liked the silence before phones started ringing and keyboards filled the building with noise. As I poured myself a cup of coffee, I noticed Ryan's office light was already on. That was unusual. He was rarely the first one in. I walked over and knocked lightly. Morning. Ryan looked up quickly, almost startled. Ethan, you're here early. I could say the same thing. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Couldn't sleep. As I turned to leave, my eyes caught something on his desk. A luxury home brochure. Across the front cover, in elegant silver letters, it read, Lakeview Estates, Private Executive Community. Ryan noticed where I was looking and immediately closed the brochure. Just thinking about buying property. Looks expensive. He grinned. You only live once. I smiled politely and walked away. But something about his reaction stayed with me all morning. A week later, we attended an investor conference in Chicago. Ryan insisted on traveling separately. I've got another meeting first. No problem, I replied. The conference lasted 2 days. The first evening, after dinner with investors, I returned to my hotel earlier than expected. As I walked through the lobby, I froze. Claire, she was standing near the elevators. Ryan was beside her. Neither of them had seen me. Ryan handed her a small gift bag. Claire smiled. Then she kissed him on the cheek. Not the kind of kiss two friends share. The kind that only happens when people think no one is watching. Before I could react, the elevator doors closed. They disappeared upstairs together. For several seconds, I couldn't move. Then I convinced myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe they had simply run into each other. Maybe the kiss meant nothing. My mind searched desperately for excuses. My heart already knew the truth. Back home, life continued as though nothing had happened. Claire greeted me with a hug. How was Chicago? Busy. Did you close the deal? Yes. She smiled. I'm proud of you. I looked into her eyes. For the first time in our marriage, I wondered whether every smile had become another lie. 2 weeks later, our chief financial officer requested a meeting. There's something strange. What is it? He slid a folder across my desk. Some consulting payments don't make sense. I reviewed the paperwork. Large transfers. Different consulting firms. Nearly all approved by Ryan. Have you spoken to him? Not yet. I wanted you to see this first. I closed the folder. Keep digging. And don't tell anyone. The CFO nodded. You think something's wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Deep down, I knew I wasn't. That Friday evening, Claire announced she was spending the weekend with friends at a spa resort. You should come. I can't. We're preparing next quarter's expansion. She kissed my forehead. Don't work too hard. The next morning, curiosity overcame me. I called the spa. Good morning. I'm trying to reach my wife, Claire Carter. There was a short pause. I'm sorry, sir. We don't have any guest by that name. The room became completely silent. My hands tightened around the phone. Thank you. I hung up. There it was. The first undeniable lie. No explanations. No misunderstandings. Just a lie. I didn't call Claire. I didn't confront her. Instead, I called the private investigator whose name Lisa had quietly written on a sticky note weeks earlier. My name is Ethan Carter. I think my wife is having an affair. The investigator answered calmly. Tell me everything. I did, and by the end of the conversation, my old life had already begun to disappear. For the next several days, I lived two completely different lives. At home, I was the same loving husband. At work, I was the same trusting business partner. But behind the scenes, the investigator followed every move they made. Every restaurant, every meeting, every phone call, every hotel. I wasn't searching for revenge anymore. I was searching for certainty. Because once certainty arrived, there would be no turning back. The private investigator's name was Daniel Mercer. He had spent 22 years as a homicide detective before opening his own investigation firm. When I walked into his office, he didn't ask many questions. He simply studied my face for a few seconds. Then he said quietly, "You don't want reassurance. You want the truth." I nodded. No matter how painful it is. Daniel leaned back. Most people change their minds after hearing that sentence. I won't. He opened a notebook. Tell me everything. For nearly an hour, I described every strange conversation, every late-night meeting, every lie Claire had told, and every financial concern surrounding Ryan. When I finished, Daniel closed the notebook. If they're hiding something, I'll find it. The waiting was unbearable. For the next week, I forced myself to live normally. Every morning Claire kissed me goodbye before leaving for client meetings. Every morning Ryan walked into the office with his usual confident smile. Nothing about them suggested guilt. That was the frightening part. People become very good actors when they have something to hide. 8 days later, Daniel called. I have something. I drove to his office immediately. Without saying a word, he placed several photographs on the desk. The first showed Ryan and Claire leaving an expensive restaurant. The second showed them entering a jewelry store. The third made my heart stop. Ryan was holding Claire's hand. Not casually, not accidentally, the way a man holds the hand of someone he believes belongs to him. Daniel spoke softly. This wasn't the only time. He slid another stack of photographs toward me. There were dozens. Different days, different places, always together, always smiling, always looking happier than either of them ever looked around me. Then Daniel handed me another folder. I think this is even more important. Inside were aerial photographs of a construction site near Lakeview Estates. Workers, construction equipment, a nearly completed luxury mansion. So, Daniel pointed toward another image. Ryan and Claire stood together in front of the house. The architect was showing them blueprints. They've visited the property 11 times in the last month. I stared at the photograph. They're building it. Daniel nodded. It appears so. I felt physically sick. Claire had spent months talking about her dream house. All that time, she hadn't been dreaming about living there with me. She had been building it with Ryan. There's more, Daniel said. He handed me a flash drive. I hacked nothing, he explained. Everything here came from public records. I plugged it into my laptop. Property permits, construction contracts, architectural plans, then, a payment schedule. The buyers were listed under a newly created investment company, Silver Horizon Properties LLC. Daniel smiled slightly. I investigated the company. It has only 2 owners. Ryan Brooks, Claire Carter. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. My marriage wasn't falling apart. It had already ended. I just hadn't been told. That night Claire returned home carrying shopping bags. You should have seen the sale today. She smiled as if nothing had happened. I looked at her, really looked at her. How many lies had that smile hidden? How many evenings had she spent planning another life while sitting across the dinner table from me? Ethan, you okay? I forced a smile. Just tired. She walked over and kissed my cheek. I love you. 3 words. Once they meant everything. Now, they meant absolutely nothing. The next morning, another surprise arrived. Our chief financial officer knocked on my office door again. We've found additional irregularities. He placed another folder in front of me. There are consulting companies receiving monthly payments. None of them appear to exist. I opened the documents. Every payment had Ryan's approval. Some were $15,000. Others were $30,000. Small enough to avoid attracting attention. Large enough to become millions over time. How much? The CFO looked down. Approximately $1.8 million. Silence. Then I quietly closed the folder. Don't freeze anything. He looked confused. You want him to continue? Yes. I need him to believe he's safe. The CFO nodded slowly. I understand, but I could tell. He didn't. That evening, Daniel called again. You should see this yourself. He sent me an address. It was the construction site. I parked across the street just before sunset. Ryan's black Mercedes was already there. A few minutes later, Claire arrived. She ran toward him. He wrapped his arms around her. They kissed, long enough to destroy every remaining hope I still carried. Then they walked through the unfinished front door together. The architect followed behind them, laughing, discussing finishes, choosing furniture, planning their future, inside a house built with money stolen from my company. I stayed there nearly an hour. Watching, listening, learning. Then I quietly drove home. Not angry, not anymore. Anger had disappeared. In its place, something far more dangerous had taken over. Patience. That night I stood alone in my study. On the wall hung a framed photograph from 10 years earlier. Ryan and I were standing inside our tiny first office. Both smiling, both exhausted. Neither of us had any idea what the future would bring. I removed the photograph from the wall, opened the frame, then quietly tore it in half. One half went into a drawer. The other, into the fireplace. As the flames consumed it, I whispered 4 simple words. You chose this, Ryan. The next morning, I called my attorney. Victoria, I think it's time we met. She answered immediately. I'll clear my schedule. I looked out the office window. Ryan was laughing with employees. Claire had just sent me a message. Don't work too late. I miss you. Heart. I stared at the screen. Then locked my phone. Neither of them realized it yet. But they had already lost. Victoria Hayes had been my attorney for nearly 8 years. She wasn't the kind of lawyer who relied on dramatic speeches or intimidation. She won because she prepared better than everyone else. When I entered her office, she could tell immediately that something had changed. You've made a decision. I have. Are you ready to hear every legal option? I nodded. I don't want revenge that lasts a day. I want justice that lasts forever. Victoria smiled. Then let's build this carefully. For the next month, almost nobody noticed anything unusual. Ryan continued running the company's sales division. Claire continued pretending to be the perfect wife. Employees continued celebrating another record-breaking quarter. But behind the scenes, everything was changing. Victoria hired forensic accountants. Daniel continued following Ryan and Claire. Our finance department quietly copied every suspicious transaction, every fake invoice, every hidden payment, every email authorization. By the end of the month, we had over 600 pages of evidence. Ryan had unknowingly built the case against himself. Meanwhile, Ryan became more confident than ever. One afternoon he walked into my office carrying a bottle of expensive whiskey. We should celebrate. What for? Our biggest year ever. He poured 2 glasses. You know, I've been thinking, we should restructure ownership. I looked at him carefully. What do you mean? Investors prefer one clear decision maker. He smiled. If you step back from daily operations, I can handle the company. You deserve a break. Inside, I almost laughed. He wasn't asking for responsibility. He was asking for control. I raised my glass. I'll think about it. His smile grew wider. He believed I was falling into the trap. That evening Daniel called. I intercepted something interesting. What is it? Ryan met privately with one of your investors. What did they discuss? He claimed you've become emotionally unstable. My expression hardened. He told them you're burned out, and that the company needs new leadership. I wasn't surprised anymore. Ryan wasn't just stealing my wife. He intended to steal the company too. 3 days later, our chief financial officer entered my office. The audit is complete. He handed me the final report. Total stolen funds, $1,842,760. Every dollar had been traced. Most of it had gone directly toward the luxury house. The remaining money funded vacations, jewelry, luxury cars, and secret accounts. Victoria looked over the report. This is enough. We can move today. I slowly shook my head. Not yet. She looked confused. What are you waiting for? I smiled slightly. The perfect moment. That perfect moment arrived sooner than expected. Ryan announced an executive meeting with our board of directors. We're presenting next year's expansion strategy. Exactly what I wanted. I quietly told Victoria. Prepare everything. The morning of the meeting felt strangely peaceful. Ryan arrived wearing his most expensive suit. He greeted employees with confidence. Claire even sent me a message. Good luck today. Love you, heart. I stared at the screen. Then deleted the message without replying. At exactly 10 o'clock, the board meeting began. 8 directors, 3 major investors, Ryan, Victoria, and me. Ryan stood first. He began presenting growth projections, revenue forecasts, international expansion. Everyone listened carefully. When he finished, applause filled the room. Ryan smiled proudly, then looked at me. Anything you'd like to add, Ethan? I slowly stood. Actually, yes. Victoria entered carrying 3 large evidence boxes. Every conversation in the room stopped. Ryan frowned. What's going on? Victoria placed thick binders in front of every board member. Please turn to page 1. Ryan opened his copy. His smile disappeared instantly. Bank records, invoices, property documents, photographs. Every page made his face paler. The chairman adjusted his glasses. Ryan, can you explain these transfers? Ryan swallowed. They're consulting expenses. Victoria calmly replied. We contacted every consulting company. None of them exist. Silence. Another director turned several pages. What about these wire transfers? Victoria answered. They were redirected into accounts controlled by Mr. Brooks. Ryan's hands began shaking. Then Victoria placed one final photograph in the center of the table. Ryan and Claire, kissing outside the unfinished mansion. Nobody spoke. One investor slowly looked toward me. I'm sorry. I simply nodded. Ryan finally stood. This is personal. I looked him directly in the eyes. No, you made it business the moment you stole from the company. The chairman called for a vote. All those in favor of immediately removing Ryan Brooks as partner and chief operating officer. Every single hand went up, including investors Ryan believed supported him. The vote was unanimous. Ryan had lost everything in less than 5 minutes. Security entered the room. Ryan looked at me with hatred. You planned this. I answered quietly. No, you planned it. I just finished it. Security escorted him toward the elevator. As the doors closed, he shouted one final sentence. This isn't over. I watched the elevator disappear. Yes, it is. That evening I returned home. Claire was sitting in the living room. Her eyes were red. She already knew Ryan had been fired. Ethan, what happened? I sat across from her. Ryan stole nearly $2 million. She looked genuinely shocked. No, he wouldn't. I interrupted calmly. He did. She looked away. For the first time, I noticed fear. Not sadness. Fear. Because she didn't know how much I had discovered. And tomorrow, she would find out. The next morning, Claire barely touched her breakfast. She stirred her coffee without taking a sip. Finally, she looked at me. Ethan, can we talk? I folded my newspaper and nodded. Of course. She took a deep breath. Ryan called me last night. I remained silent. He said everything has fallen apart. Still, I said nothing. She searched my face for some sign of emotion. Instead, she found only calm. Did you know about the money? I asked quietly. Did you? Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I stood, walked into my study, and returned with a thick brown envelope. Without a word, I placed it on the dining table. Open it. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the contents. Photographs, hotel receipts, security camera stills, property documents, bank transfers, private investigator reports, every lie, every meeting, every secret. The color drained from her face. You knew. For months. A tear rolled down her cheek. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I looked at her with complete calm. The saddest part isn't that you betrayed me. It's that you underestimated me. Claire began crying. I made a terrible mistake. I was confused. I never meant for this to happen. I shook my head. No, it wasn't one mistake. It was hundreds of decisions. You lied every day. You planned a future with another man. You helped him steal from my company. Silence filled the room. There was nothing left for her to deny. Later that afternoon, my attorney called. The divorce papers are ready. So are the criminal complaints. I answered simply, file everything. There would be no dramatic arguments. No revenge speeches. Just consequences. Meanwhile, Ryan had become desperate. Daniel, the investigator, called me. He's trying to save the house. I smiled. He's too late. He doesn't know that yet. The following morning, Ryan drove to the construction site carrying a cashier's check. He believed he could still complete the purchase. The site manager met him outside. I'm sorry, Mr. Brooks. The contract has been terminated. Ryan slammed the envelope onto the desk. I have the money. The manager slowly shook his head. The property has already been sold. Ryan stared in disbelief. To who? The manager pointed toward the driveway. A black luxury SUV pulled through the gates. I stepped out, holding the keys. Ryan's face turned completely white. No, it can't be. I walked toward him. It already is. He looked from me to the house, then back to the keys in my hand. You bought it? Yes. You planned this? No. I simply paid for a house that was available. He clenched his fists. You stole my future. I answered quietly. You lost it long before I arrived. Just then, Claire's car entered the driveway. She had followed Ryan after reading his frantic messages. The moment she saw me standing in front of the mansion, holding the keys, she understood everything. Ethan, I'm begging you, please. I interrupted gently. This house was built with stolen money. It never belonged to either of you. A moving truck slowly entered the property. Workers climbed out. Ryan looked confused. What are they doing? I smiled. Moving furniture. For the new owners. He looked around. You. I shook my head. No. The workers unloaded children's beds, bookshelves, study desks, playground equipment. Claire frowned. I don't understand. I looked toward the mansion. I'm donating it. Neither of them spoke. I continued. This house will become a home for children who lost their families. It'll finally be built on honesty instead of lies. Claire covered her mouth. Ryan simply stared at the ground. For the first time, neither of them had an answer. A week later, Ryan was arrested. The financial evidence was overwhelming. Every hidden account, every forged invoice, every transfer, every signature. Faced with years in prison, he accepted a plea agreement. His reputation disappeared overnight. News outlets covered the story for weeks. The man once praised as a brilliant entrepreneur became known as the executive who betrayed his partner. The divorce became final 2 months later. Our prenuptial agreement protected the company. Claire walked away with only her personal belongings. As she signed the final document, she quietly asked, "Will you ever forgive me?" I thought for a moment, then answered honestly, "One day, but forgiveness doesn't mean rebuilding what was destroyed." She nodded through tears. It was the last conversation we ever had. 6 months passed. Carter Dynamics was stronger than ever. Employee morale improved. New investors joined. The company recovered every dollar possible through the court process. One afternoon, Lisa walked into my office carrying coffee. "You look different." "I feel different. Happier." I smiled. "Peaceful." She laughed. "I like peaceful." "So do I." On a warm spring afternoon, I visited the mansion one final time. Children were playing soccer across the front lawn. Laughter echoed through the halls. The rooms that were once meant to hide betrayal had become filled with hope. The director of the charity walked over. "They love this place." I watched the children running through the gardens. "Good. It deserves better memories." As I walked back to my car, I realized something important. Winning isn't making your enemies suffer. Winning is refusing to let their betrayal destroy your future. Ryan lost his freedom. Claire lost her marriage. I lost the people I thought I loved. But I found something far more valuable. Self-respect, peace, and the certainty that no one could ever steal the life I chose to rebuild. Sometimes, karma doesn't arrive with anger. Sometimes, it arrives with a set of house keys. The trial began 4 months later. Every seat inside the courtroom was filled. Journalists crowded the back rows. Business reporters whispered to one another. Former employees watched quietly, waiting to see how the story would end. Ryan entered wearing a plain gray suit instead of the designer clothing he once loved. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked ordinary. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He never looked in my direction. The prosecutor spent 3 days presenting evidence. Every fraudulent invoice, every forged signature, every hidden bank account, every transfer of stolen company money. The jury watched closely as the financial records painted the picture of a man who had slowly stolen from the company he had helped build. Then came the photographs. Ryan and Claire touring the luxury mansion. Ryan paying contractors with company funds. Ryan approving fake consulting payments only hours before wiring money to construction accounts. The evidence spoke louder than any witness ever could. Ryan finally took the stand. His attorney advised him not to. He ignored the advice. He looked toward the jury. I made mistakes, but I helped build Carter Dynamics. I deserved more than I received. The prosecutor stood. Did Mr. Carter ever deny you your salary? No. Did he deny you ownership? No. Did he authorize you to steal company funds? Ryan remained silent. Mr. Brooks, answer the question. No. Did Mr. Carter authorize your relationship with his wife? Ryan lowered his head. No. The courtroom became completely silent. 3 hours later, the jury returned. Guilty. On every count. The judge looked directly at Ryan. Greed destroyed what talent could have preserved. I sentence you to 6 years in state prison. The gavel struck. Ryan closed his eyes. His journey from respected executive to convicted criminal was complete. Claire never attended the trial. Instead, she sent one handwritten letter to my office. I didn't open it immediately. It remained inside my desk drawer for almost a month. One quiet evening, I finally read it. Greater than Ethan, every day I think about the life we could have had if I had simply appreciated what I already possessed. Ryan promised excitement. You gave me stability. I confused the two. Losing you taught me that loyalty is priceless. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope one day you remember me before I became someone you couldn't recognize. Claire. When I finished reading, I folded the letter carefully. Then placed it back inside the envelope. Some apologies arrived too late. Nearly a year passed. Carter Dynamics expanded into Europe. Our employee count doubled. Revenue reached record levels. For the first time since founding the company, I took a 2-week vacation. Not because I was exhausted. Because I'd finally learned that life couldn't be measured only by quarterly reports. One afternoon I received an invitation from the children's home that now occupied the mansion. The director smiled as she greeted me. We have something we'd like you to see. Children ran across the gardens. The empty ballroom had become a library. The theater room was now a classroom. The swimming pool echoed with laughter instead of silence. One little boy walked over. Mister, did you really build this place? I smiled. No, but I helped it find the right purpose. He grinned. It's the best home ever. I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Peace. As I prepared to leave, the director handed me a framed photograph. It showed dozens of smiling children standing in front of the house. On the back was a simple handwritten message. Sometimes the greatest revenge is giving someone else a better future. I kept that photograph in my office. Not as a reminder of betrayal. As a reminder of healing. 2 years later, life looked completely different. One evening I attended a technology conference. After my keynote speech, a woman approached me. My name is Emily. I've followed Carter Dynamics for years. She wasn't interested in my money. She wasn't impressed by headlines. She wanted to discuss cybersecurity, leadership, and building ethical businesses. We talked for hours. It felt easy. No games, no pretending, no hidden motives, just honesty, something I'd almost forgotten existed. Months turned into another year. Emily and I slowly built a relationship based on something far stronger than excitement. Trust. Real trust. The kind earned over time. Not promised in words. One rainy afternoon, she asked a question. Can I ask something personal? Of course. After everything that happened, were you ever afraid to trust again? I looked out the cafe window. I was. So why did you? Because one person's betrayal shouldn't become another person's punishment. She smiled. I like that answer. Around that same time, I received unexpected news. Ryan had been released early for good behavior. I wasn't angry. I wasn't worried. His chapter in my life had ended long ago. Several weeks later, I saw him by chance at a grocery store. He looked older, tired. He noticed me immediately. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he walked over. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I know. I just wanted to say, you were the best friend I ever had. And I threw it away." I nodded quietly. "I hope you build a better life." He looked surprised. "That's all. What else is there to say?" He smiled sadly. "I suppose nothing." Then he walked away. And for the first time, seeing him brought no anger. Only acceptance. As for Claire, I heard she had moved to another city and started over. Our paths never crossed again. Some endings don't require another conversation. Silence is enough. 5 years after everything happened, I stood once more outside the house that had started it all. Children were chasing each other across the lawn. Teachers laughed from the porch. Flowers bloomed where resentment once lived. I reached into my pocket and found the old brass key the developer had given me on closing day. I looked at it one last time, then handed it to the home's director. "It belongs here now." She smiled. "It always did." As I walked back to my car, I realized the greatest victory had never been buying the house. It had been refusing to become the kind of man betrayal wanted me to be. They tried to steal my company. They tried to steal my marriage. They tried to steal my future. In the end, they only taught me how valuable integrity really is. And that was something no one could ever take away.